has never been a more important time to move in a vegan direction. Whether you're ready to start, restart, or re-energize your vegan or plant-based practice, this podcast is for you. I'm Michele Olander, life coach, vegan, ADHD matriarch, travel lover, and smoothie loather. And I know that it's the details that get in the way of your vegan journey. But I like to believe that the obstacle is always the way. So every week we meet here where I translate the tools of life coaching and Stoic philosophy. I bring you actionable tips, some laughs, interesting guests, and vegan ideas for everyone at any age. All to help you veg your best. Episode 279, Staying Alive. Sherry Shrallow talks heart disease, food, and the Vegan Volunteer Corps. Hi, kids. It's Michele, and welcome back to Vedge Your Best for 2026. Today's episode is going to be the first episode for the new year for 2026, and we're calling it Staying Alive. Sherry Shrallow talks heart disease, food, and the Vegan Volunteer Corps. And I wanted to start by saying, staying alive, well, this is not about fear. It's not an episode about perfection and life and death, but it is an episode about what happens when something big and unexpected interrupts your life, grabs you by the neck and shakes you to get your attention. And then what do you do next? My guest today is Sherry Shrallow, author of the book Staying Alive. And you're going to hear how at age 56, Sherry was active, working, eating what she thought was a heart-healthy diet, and then had a sudden heart attack at work. And what followed was major surgery, a long recovery, and a lot of new information about, well, things she had never known about heart disease, lifestyle, and prevention. So in our conversation today, Sherry will share how discovering whole food, plant-based nutrition actually changed the direction, not just of her life, but actually her real health, the kind of health that doctors notice, the numbers, the lab tests, and how healing for her became about something much, much more than food. We talk about depression after illness, rebuilding routines, letting go of perfection, and finding meaning through service, including that work that she began with the Vegan Volunteer Corps. So if you've ever wondered whether it's too late to change or how to stay curious and compassionate with yourself when life does not go according to plan, this conversation is for you. Let's get into it. Sherry Shrallow, author of Staying Alive, Healing from Heart Disease. Welcome to Vedge Your Best.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here.
Well, you know, I learned about you through a colleague or a friend of yours, Kim Javaco,
Right.
from Vedge Johnson Journeys, and she said, you have to interview Sherry.
Oh, so sweet. She's a great person.
Well, and I've read your book, and you have a story. I was just mentioning that I noticed we're almost exactly 15 years since the cardiac event that you experienced that changed your life, really, right?
Sure did. For the better, I might say. Some might say, this is a tragedy, but I don't look at it that way. It was an opportunity for me that was just handed to me to really try to make a difference in the lives of other people so that they too don't have to experience what I went through on that nice day in Houston, Texas, almost 15 years ago.
So tell us a little bit about what happened, the abridged version, because I can point people to your actual book for the details of it, but give us the kind of cliff notes, Sherry.
Yeah, Yeah. So, I was what I thought was a very healthy 56-year-old woman. I was working as a clinical social worker in my own private practice. I was a life and executive coach. When we lived in Houston, Texas, we had moved down there after having lived in Chicago for many years. And I was just doing my job. I was at my office one day and I was extremely fit. I worked out all the time. I ate what I thought was a very, heart healthy diet, like the Mediterranean style diet. Um, and life was just zooming along perfectly and normally. And then I was in my office and I was eating lunch. And after I ate, I had this terrible, terrible feeling come over me of nausea and dizziness. And I laid down on my couch in my office and I was out. I woke up, thank goodness, and I said, I think I'm having a heart attack. And I knew this because I had read some things about women and symptoms from heart disease. It's different in some women than it is for men. I didn't have any stabbing pains, none of that. And I called my husband and he called 911 for me. They came and got me in my office and looked at me and said, yeah, you're having a heart attack. So off we went to the hospital, and my book is about the story of my journey back to health without much help from the medical profession, unfortunately. But I had a sister who worked at the Cleveland Clinic, and she's a nurse practitioner, and she knew a Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn personally and knew of the book that he had written and the study that he had done, which was a very small study of maybe 17, 18 very terminally ill heart patients at the Cleveland Clinic. And they started eating a whole food, plant-based diet and were watched very closely over many years by him with like biweekly meetings and, always available to his patients. And lo and behold, these 17 patients, all of them went on to reverse their heart disease by the way that they were eating. So that was enough for me to know. Off I went to the bookstore after I came out of rehab and got home, and I read the book in one day, sitting at the pool at our condo in Houston, Texas, where we lived at the time. And that was it for me. Off I went to Whole Foods and I cleaned out my refrigerator, gave away all the stuff that I was no longer going to eat, and I was on my journey all by myself.
Mm.
Nobody to help me except my sister who pointed me in the right direction.
Yeah, thanks, sis, because that is that's that when I was reading your book, that's what I was thinking about is like, what are the odds that you have a sister, that you have a cardiac event in America and you have a sister who can point you within a day or two
Right.
to Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn? I mean, information most of us would never ever get,
Right.
especially at that time.
At that time, yes, things are different now. I'm happy to report. My cardiologist is Dr. Kim Williams, who is the former president of the American College of Cardiology. And I have to tell you that because of him and other doctors in this country and around the world, things are getting a little better. The American College of Cardiology now recommends that we eat a whole food plant-based diet to avoid heart disease. This is new. They have been working on this since I had my heart attack 15 years ago, that nobody wanted to hear this. But the science is so clear now about how to prevent this from happening that they can't debate this anymore. There's nothing to debate.
Mm.
So that's the good news, that more doctors are aware of this and are maybe not practicing this lifestyle, but at least giving patients the information that they deserve to hear. To not tell them is, to me, is medical malpractice, in my opinion, that you must tell people what the science is saying.
I totally agree, because even if many physicians probably feel I can tell them that, but there's no way they're going to be compliant. I can barely get them to take their medications the way I ask or to do the fitness things I ask them to do. There's no way they're going to completely overhaul their meals. But on the other hand, sometimes you have a near death experience. I think a lot of us it focuses the mind wonderfully.
It does. And for me, I said this wasn't a tragedy, it was an opportunity. And what I did with it is what I've been doing ever since I had the heart attack, and that's educating people about how to not have this happen to them. And I do that through their sense of taste. I started teaching cooking classes. Down in Houston, I did one when I was maybe a year or two past my heart attack, did a huge class. I did a class in the rehab program that I was in because the nurses that were leading that program during the education piece said to all of us, you can eat in moderation whatever you want, but moderation is the key. And I invited those nurses to my class at this church that former President George Bush belonged to. It was a beautiful educational center they had, and I taught my first class there. And the nurses came, and once they heard what I had to say about the food, that you can reverse and prevent this disease by eating a whole food plant-based diet, they were telling a different story to their patients after that. And I went to that cardiac program and I taught every class. And they had, I bet, about 10 classes each week, of different people coming at different times for their cardiac rehab. I made sure to hit every one of those classes with my story and also with food that I would bring to them to try. So I think that's what we have to do. We have to get out there and not just don't be obnoxious about talking about this or push people into something they don't want. People have a choice, but give people that choice.
Yeah, I think sometimes it almost feels like the medical profession infantilizes patients a little bit. There's this kind of sense of like, oh, but if I tell them that, they'll be upset or they'll be angry, or the wife or the husband or the kids will be like, I'm not cooking that for them. I don't know how you're going to, where that's going to come from. There's this kind of,
Right.
and if it were a question of the medication or the protocol or an intervention protocol, they wouldn't hold back.
Not at all. Not at all. They don't give us enough credit, is what I like to say. We are not stupid. We are people who have brains. We can think. We can take in information. What we do with it, of course, is up to us. But so many people that I've worked with over the years that I've met and who have gotten in touch with me have wanted to make a change because they knew that this was for their lifetime, that they didn't want to end up having a shortened lifespan, and they didn't want to end up being sick, not just with heart disease, but with other chronic Western diseases that it's just overpowering in this country what's happening. People are getting sick from type 2 diabetes, totally reversible, at least getting it to a point where you don't need medication. Things like autoimmune diseases definitely impact how you feel. Heart disease, as we've talked about. So it's not just heart disease. As Dr. Dean Ornish says, this diet works for just about everything.
Mm. So you're in the beginning of rehabbing from this near death event. Your sister brings you this information about Dr. Esselstyn and what work that's being done at the Cleveland Clinic. You read the book in a day. How did you begin?
The first thing I did was I just cleared out my refrigerator and my cupboards. And I actually gave away the food. I didn't want to throw it away. I gave it to the people that worked in the condo building I lived in, the workers there. They took it. And then I went to Whole Foods and I spent, I would say, about 2.5 to 3 hours carefully going down each aisle and reading labels of all the different foods and thinking, you know what, I'm best off on the outside of the grocery store, the fruits and the vegetables, getting whole grains because everything had oil in it. All of the packaged foods, a lot of it was processed. And so I was trying to stay as clean as I could with my eating just real food. So it took some doing because there wasn't a lot of education out there at the time, 15 years ago. There weren't a lot of support groups for sure. Now there's plenty. So I was sort of winging it. I had to try things in my kitchen. And as my husband often said, and we laugh about it now, I was like a mad scientist in the kitchen. I was trying to make dishes that were good and that we would enjoy. Some were winners and some were really losers. But I kept on going. And then, things are so simple now. You can go online now, and there's 1,000 websites for recipes and YouTube channels. Not all of them are as healthy as I would hope they would be. A lot of them are full of, vegan butter and oils. And, I don't cook that way, but there are ways to learn how to cook this way now. So you don't have to do it on your own.
And your husband was a good sport about it.
You bet,
Because
because
he'd
he
almost
doesn't like
lost
to
you.
cook, but he loves to eat. And he's very good with dishes.
All right, that's a partnership.
It is.
What was your mood during this period of time? Because it sounds like it could have been a lot of people have kind of a depressed period of time after a big physical event like this, biochemically, not just emotionally. Um, and then to take on, sometimes I talk to people, they almost feel like they've been blamed for their physical issue because of the choices they've made, even though they had no idea that they were doing anything that would be contraindicative of their heart health. How did you handle some of this sort of emotional up and down?
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I've sort of pushed that back now, because that was a dark period in my life. I had a very bad depression going on during that time, and I'm a psychotherapist, so I knew it. In my condo building, a psychiatrist, female psychiatrist, lived there who I was friends with, and she referred to me a lot. She was instrumental in helping me at that time. She came down to see me a couple times, and we just called it what it was. This is depression. I tried a couple medications. One of them just put me in bed for a couple days. It just was terrible, the reaction I had. And then we found one that was just right, that helped me get an appetite back, because I couldn't eat. When you're depressed, sometimes it can go one way or the other. Mine went total appetite suppression. I lost like 10 pounds after I had my heart attack, and I was down to like 115 pounds. So that helped me be able to just eat food again. And it was before I had gone plant-based, because it was right after that heart attack. So, I was just trying to get anything in me at that time. So yes, it's a real thing that happens. Anyone that has a major surgery like that, or major health event that literally just uproots you completely. I almost died. They did not think I was going to survive. My husband was told to gather the family that day. I think they said they gave me a 20% chance of coming through. I coded 3 times that day on the table during the bypass and the surgery to repair my aorta that they accidentally dissected during the catheterization. So it was not a good day for me.
My Lord. No. No, my dad was a psychiatrist. He's gone. He's been gone quite some time now. But I remember him talking, way back years ago, that people didn't understand how often depression followed a physical trauma of this sort, and that a lot of people talk about depression much more than they did in the 70s, when I was growing up. And he would say, so many of these people and their families don't understand what's going on. And they don't get the support that they need and just sometimes being told this is very normal, even if you don't choose the medication, which I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. I'm just saying, even if you don't, just knowing that this is a normal situation is a big deal.
I remember going to the rehab after I got out of the outpatient rehab, after I had been inpatient rehab for a while. And I just was sobbing. And it was a young physical therapist who, she didn't know what to say to me. She was so uncomfortable. She goes, well, what are you crying about?
You're alive.
I said, I just can't help it. I'm so sad. I don't want to be here. I'm so sad this is happening in my life. I was in the rehabilitation center with like 80 and 90-year-old people. I'm sitting at the table and everyone has dementia and Alzheimer's. And it was like, I'm 56 years old. What am I doing here?
Wow.
I'm laughing now, but it was it was tragic at the time.
Yeah, I don't want to bring you back to such a dark time so much as I do think many of the people who listen to this podcast are people who are in the second half or third of their lives. And even if our own health issues are not bad, many of the people we love most in the world are going through these sorts of issues, and it's a good thing to remind us. It's not, it's hard to cheer up. You're lucky you're alive, it's it's it is something I think that bears repeating. Even if we know it intellectually, it bears repeating.
I felt like I was a 90-year-old for a long time. I was using a walker. I couldn't even walk to the bathroom unassisted. I mean, it was that bad. I mean, that's major surgery. It was
Absolutely.
terrible.
Absolutely. So you get some of the food, you get the food out of your house, you get the new, cleaner, low oil or no oil. You
No,
probably were doing with no oil,
no
right?
oil.
No oil. So you start incorporating this into your life. You must have been terrified to go out to eat, not trusting anybody to in a restaurant to not put oil in your food.
I had to call ahead and ask for, a dish they could make for me. So that's just what I had to do.
Mm,
It wasn't that fun to eat out, They don't really make things that are real tasty for you. I
mm.
could do better at home. But, you want to be with people and you want to have a life. And so you do it because of that. It's not about the food.
Right, I agree. It is so we. I agree. It is not about the food. As much as I love food and enjoy food and look forward to my next meal, the it is the comradeship. It is the fellowship. It is the comfort, the emotional comfort that food
Absolutely.
really is, and it's also what makes it sometimes hard for us to change our food.
Right. That's for sure.
Mm. And sometimes we don't really have a strong why. And you apparently had an exceptionally strong why to make
Yes.
those changes. So after you get that food kind of dialed in, you're beginning to feel comfortable with that. And did I'm going to assume because you're so upbeat now that the depression lifted or transformed a little bit over time.
Say it took about 2 to 3 months for it to lift, which is not long when you have depression. I was out of work from November and I went back in mid-February, which was not bad,
That's
not
pretty
bad.
ambitious.
Went
Yeah.
back part-time, just saw a few clients a day to begin with, but just getting back to work really helped me to have my routine back, to be helping people again. Um, that was so important. I think just getting your routine back
Yeah. It's hard to be a patient.
sure is. And I'm not one who likes to sit around idly.
I get it.
A lot of
I get
books
it.
in a chair for 3 months.
Yeah, I get it. So then at what point did you go through the plant-based nutrition program of Dr. Esselstyn's, which I also have been through that maybe 5 years after you did
So this
yours.
is this was Dr. T. Colin Campbell's
I'm
program.
sorry.
Yeah, Colin Campbell. I know we get them interchanged sometimes. They're good friends. Well, I had met Dr. Campbell at his daughter's retreat in the Dominican Republic. It was called Global Root Summit. And when I met him, I just wanted to learn more because he was giving lectures at our retreat, and I got to sit and talk with him personally many times. And I said, I'm going to do this. So that's what it's did. That's how I started. I said I'm going to take the course, and it was a great course. I really enjoyed it. I was sad when it ended. I wanted more and more. So that was the beginning of that. So I think that was a couple of years after my heart attack, not right away.
Hmm. And so what did that change for you in terms of, because I feel like your work has started to bend around your recovery
Mhm.
from heart disease.
So I think it just gave me the confidence to go out into the public and to share it with them. To say that I had taken this course, this is what I had learned, and I think it's important information to have. So that's what the course did for me. I'm not an expert. I don't have a degree in nutrition. I don't proclaim to be an expert in those areas. But what I can help people do, as a coach, as you do, is to make people curious about what they can learn on their own. Because basically it comes back to us, doesn't it? We have to be the ones that want to feel empowered with education and information. And that's sort of that I felt like I was sort of the viaduct. I was the one that was pushing them towards that taking that next step, learn more. Don't take it from me. Read on your own. Here are the resources. Here are books. Here are articles, and see what you think. And then how does it affect your life then in the future? And for many people, not everybody, but for people that are truly interested, who might have some of these chronic diseases in particular, like type 2 diabetes and autoimmune diseases and cancers, they're ready to learn anything that can help them. They're willing to try. It's not a guarantee. And I always say that to people. I have plenty of plant-based friends who have gotten cancer. We're getting older. Cancer begins early in our lives, and it can grow slowly. And sometimes even our nutrition isn't enough to stop it. So I don't want people to think that it's a panacea, that it's the all, the tell-all and all. It's not. But it is something that you can do proactively to reduce your risk of these things happening to you. And just, pray that luck is on your side, because a lot of it has to do with luck and just, who we are, our genetics. It just is.
And the timing when it gets, when we get organized with it. Well, so, yes, of course, there's so many toxins that we're exposed to that aren't coming from our food necessarily.
Right.
But over the years that you've been talking to people about the food, making these food changes, do people still say, "Oh, I had no idea this. I never heard any of this"?
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. News to them. And that's why I thought it was really important when we moved from Texas back to Chicago. My husband he retired down in Houston, and then he took another job post-retirement up in Chicago. So we came back. So we were back and forth. And I'm from Ohio originally, so we've been all over. But when we got back to Chicago, we bought a home with a really nice sized kitchen and a big eating area. I said, I'm going to start cooking classes in my home. And he goes, "You're going to do what?" Yeah. "And you're going to let strangers in?" I go, "Yeah, I'm going to let strangers come into the house." So I started a meetup group. And I think I had, by the time I stopped doing it 8 years later, about 800 members of the group.
Oh my gosh.
Now, they couldn't come to my house all at once. Obviously, we limited it to, I think, 22 at a time. But all of the recipes and everything we all posted everything afterwards and the pictures. So I met a ton of people in Chicago through that. People that didn't know a thing about plant-based nutrition. But, we would break into small groups, and I had it all set up into, little stations. This person would make this with another, and then we would sit down and enjoy the dinner together once a month. For 8 years, I did this. It was a lot of work.
I can't even imagine how much work that was.
It was a ton of work.
It's a lot of names to remember, too.
I'm just joyful that we did it, because I'm still doing these kind of crazy things to this day. I teach a class at a college here in Chicago once a year, where my primary care physician, Dr. Ashwani Garg, who is a wonderful person for you to talk to as well, he is the medical director of the physician's assistant program at this college. It's a graduate program. So I've done it now 3 years. I go in, I just did it last month. I cook for like 50 people. And I do a demo there, but they're all first-year graduate students in this PA program. And these are the people that are going to be out there working with people in the public, getting probably more time with them than even some doctors. And I'm telling you, if I have over 3 years, I think we had one vegetarian and one vegan out of all those students.
Wow.
So they get to taste the food, they hear my story, we talk about the science, Dr. Garg talks. So we try and plant some seeds with this group of people that I adore. They're all in their 20s. They're so young. I feel so old next to them. I'm 71 now. But we have a great 2 hours together, and I make it fun. But this is what I like to do. So yeah, it's just continuing to plant seeds through my YouTube channel. Probably the thing that I'm most proud of in my life to this date, though, is what we're doing with the homeless people here in Chicago. And I don't know if you know about.
I do know, and I'm waiting for you to tell me all about
Yeah,
that.
you know-
Yeah, because obviously your recovery has given you actually probably more energy than you've ever
I'm
had.
an energy bunny until I don't have the
That
energy.
is
And I come home and
fantastic.
I need my quiet time. I'm an introvert and an extrovert, depending on what time it is.
Yeah, so please do tell me about what is that organization called?
So I called it the Vegan Volunteer Corps. And I started out with just letting some of my plant-based friends know, hey, anybody want to help me with this? Let's cook some food and take it. There was a shelter in Chicago that welcomes groups to come in and bring whatever you want. No restrictions, no worries about, I mean, they don't worry about anything, but it's the homeless shelter. They're happy to have you come in. So we went and we started out with maybe 8 people in my group. Now we have 75 volunteers. We go once a month. I create the menu. I have an app that people go to sign up now for what they want to make. You make one thing, one recipe or 2 recipes. It's like a 5-course meal. And I'm telling you, the people at the shelter, when they know that we're coming, they are so excited because it's real food. It's not cold cuts and hot dogs and macaroni and cheese. They're getting food. And we talk about this is food, not just for your body, but for your soul, because this is going to help you to feel good in your life. And they love it. So, I mean, it's a joy. And we sit down and we have lunch together. We hear a lot of stories about what people are going through. The circumstances of life, how quickly things can change for people that had been on their own and now are homeless.
Yeah.
But it's an organization that I'm a social worker by profession. So it's an organization that helps people to get back on their feet. So it's not just we're going to give you this. No, we're going to help you with the tools to be able to find a new job, to get an apartment, for me to teach you how to eat foods that are economic, that aren't going to, bust the bank. A can of beans or beans that you can cook on the stovetop are not expensive and they're healthy for you. So yeah, this is the joy of my life right now.
So you're busting all the myths that people have that it's too hard, that it's too late for me to learn something new, and it's too expensive.
Right. I have to tell you about this one woman, though, that I met on a trip with Dr. McDougall. Remember Dr. McDougall?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
we miss him so much. He used to take people to Hawaii. So we would go to the Big Island, and it was a large group of people. But I met this woman, and I talk about her in my book. Her first name is Gladys, and she's recently passed.
Oh,
She was in her late 80s, and she had suffered from chronic arthritis, terrible. She couldn't even move hardly. And her daughter is a real big plant-based person in Australia, where they come from. And she got her mom to start eating plant-based. And I met her maybe a year into it. Gladys was up and running at that retreat. She was in the ocean with me snorkeling. We kept in touch when she got back. I kept in touch with her up until her health failed at the end, and I still keep in touch with her daughter. But she is a shining example that it's never, ever, ever too late to try this. And it changed the quality of her life. Look at Ann Esselstyn, what she can do. She's pulling tractor weights. She does squats better than I could do them.
yeah. And there are really no contraindications to a plant-based diet. I mean, it's possible you might have some GI issue that keep you from being able to break down certain kinds of. I mean, it's possible, but most people can eat a plant-based diet
Right.
and thrive on it, as long as it's not, French fries and Diet Coke. But a thoughtful, whole food, plant-based diet is not going to be a problem for anybody.
Yeah. No. You're right, though. I mean, I think it is a warning, though, for people when you first go on it. I'll tell a funny story. You may not want to put this on your
No, it's
video,
okay.
but
My
I'll tell you
my
anyway.
people have heard it all.
Oh, this is pretty bad. I had been on the diet, maybe. This is when I first went back to work. And I was going to work and I parked my car in the parking lot. And your stomach it's on overdrive when you first start out. You have to go to the bathroom a lot. So I'm in the car and I'm going, oh, I don't think I'm gonna make it. I ran into the building. I did not make it.
Oh, you poor thing.
I had a client to see in 10 minutes. So I get into the bathroom, had to throw away the underwear, clean myself up as best I could. I'm going, oh my God, what's happening? So I had to go commando that day.
Well, it's a good reminder to everybody. If you are not currently eating fiber,
Like that.
yeah,
And
you cannot just go all in comfortably. And I do know a lot of people say, "Oh, I can't tolerate the beans and the green." And obviously, there are some people who have a hard time and may never be able to break it down the way you and I have learned to do it.
right,
But most people just need to start slowly in that case, right? Yeah.
right. You don't need a ton of beans on your plate. You need a little bit, just a little. But the beauty of this is that your body starts working the way it was meant to work. And that is, elimination becomes a natural, uneventful event, right? Your system is just so tuned in to using the food and getting rid of what it doesn't need. And it's all smooth.
Mm.
I don't know too many plant-based people who suffer from constipation.
Right. No, right. And the gut biome, if you've been feeding it certain things, that's what it knows how to break down right now. But so if you change that, there will be a learning curve for the little fellas in your gut.
Yes, going, what's happening?
I don't know what that is. So, I'm looking at your book. When I look away from you, it's what I'm looking at. One of your chapters is making a difference. So, at first, this is about you making a difference in your own life, and probably hoping to make sure that your husband and any people that are close to you are getting, the same kind of knowledge and support and fueling themselves the way you've learned to. But then this idea of making a difference, I think it is such an important part of life, post 55, 60, 70. Making a difference really, really matters. Why be healthy if we're not making any kind of difference?
That's right. And I always think too about, what is happiness? Happiness is fleeting. you know, Getting something you like to buy. Okay, you got something you like. The feeling goes away pretty quickly. But when you're in this world and you're interacting with others and helping to make a difference or doing something that's kind towards others in this world, to me, that's lasting happiness. That becomes a part of you. One of my volunteers that goes with me every month down to the shelter, she always cries when we leave because she's so filled with emotion and feels so happy that she is part of this group, that she can go and sit and talk with people and hear their stories and be there for people going through a hard time. And I think, a lot of people are going through a hard time in this world. And if there were more of us that use some of our energy to be good listeners and to be around others like that, what a different world we would live in.
Yeah, because all we have to do is listen. Very often, it's
Just
just being
listen,
a friendly ear.
be present for people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is, another thing that I think about a lot too, not just with our diet, is that what else can we do to not only be physically healthy, but to be mentally well? And that's where I say that I look at mindfulness practices as an imperative part of my healing process. I know that after my heart attack, I would go by the pool in our condo. It was outdoors in Texas. And I would do a Qigong practice and I would do my meditation out there, just, to be outside. I continue these practices 15 years later. I did them before my heart attack as well. But they are just so important to be able to be in the present moment because so many of us are always rehashing the past or thinking about the future. And we don't spend a lot of time just being here in this moment, like you and I are sitting here talking to each other and being tuned into each other. And it brings a sense of peace to me. Like when I get up really early in the morning and I listen to a meditation. Let me tell you this guy's name because he's incredible. His name, it's called The Way. Have you ever heard of that?
I
With
don't
Henry
know.
Shukman?
I don't know if I have.
Man, he gives 30 free meditation practice experiences, which I'm in the middle of doing. And if you ever want to continue then on, it's like really not, it's like $450 a month or something when you break it down to continue. I do this every morning for half an hour. It's a guided meditation. And it's just, it really changes your life because you don't allow things to sort of penetrate into your brain and interfere with your inner peace. I mean, there's so many things that could distract us from feeling at peace at this moment in time, right?
You bet. You
We
bet.
won't go into that.
Because we can't do anything about 99% of those things.
We can't. So we still have to live, and we have to know ourselves and be at peace with ourselves and love ourselves despite what's happening in the world.
It's the cliche of the oxygen mask, really,
Exactly.
isn't it?
It is.
Put that on first because you're no good to anyone without it.
That's right. So a big part of healing.
Yeah. So you do yoga. You teach classes.
I don't. No, I don't want to be a teacher of these practices. I want to be a student.
I love that. I love that.
I had to fill in for a Qigong teacher once. It wasn't as fun for me.
Isn't that interesting?
I'm not certified. I'm not certified in it. I'm a student. I don't want to be certified in it.
Yeah.
That's for the others to do.
I agree. I'm a student. I'm not a teacher. I relate to that. It's like I just want to keep learning from everybody.
I do too.
Isn't that great? So one of the other chapters that I loved was finding your voice, finding my voice, challenging the medical establishment. So how did that show up?
Yeah, it didn't go very well. They don't like to be challenged. When I went back to see the cardiologist, who was the one who dissected my aorta accidentally, I brought Dr. Esselstyn's book with me. And I said, hey, have you read this book or have you seen these studies? He goes, no. He takes a look at the book. He goes, what is this? I said, well, it's a pretty important initial study out of the Cleveland Clinic about diet and heart disease. So he looked at some of the scans in the book. You know, he has pictures of the changes in the arteries. He goes, oh, that's interesting. That was his only response to me. So I decided early on that it wasn't my job to change each individual physician, because forget it. I think working in collaboration with physicians who are on this path, that's a better way to do it. So I've done a couple of videos with Dr. Williams. I don't think it ever got used. It was one that was going to be used in medical schools. I don't even know what happened to it. But we were talking about training doctors, you know, how to use food as medicine. So I think for me, it's finding doctors in my life that understand where I'm coming from and are respectful to me and who don't poo-poo it and who don't say, well, I don't think talking about this would do any good for my patients. That's ridiculous. Like I said in the beginning of our talk, they owe us this information because it's science. It's not an opinion, it's actual science. So I surround myself with doctors who are plant-based now.
And how do you find what's your advice? How I'm sitting somewhere. I'm a recent. I've suddenly my life has changed. I have this medical issue. I didn't even realize I had this medical issue. I'm kind of stabilizing now. Yeah, I listen to Michele because I kind of know I want to be in that world. But how do I find a doctor?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of places to go to. The American College of Lifestyle Medicine is one. Now, not all of those doctors are plant-based, and I didn't know this. But there's also the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine. They have a whole clinic in the DC area through the Physicians Committee where you can go if you have the means to get there. But there are doctors all over the country. But you've got to do a little research. You've got to dig. You've got to ask around. And even if you don't find one that's plant-based, if you find one who is open to hearing what you're doing, that's fine too, because you're providing them with some education yourself. And the proof is in the pudding, because they're looking at your vital signs, they're looking at your blood work. And believe me, if they looked at my blood work, they go, oh my gosh, that's really good. So that's another way, I think, to sort of educate physicians who may not be plant-based is just going with your own food protocol and let your test results be the proof.
Mm. I think that's very important. Right now, a lot of Americans are facing a huge increase in their medical insurances.
Oh.
And it's very hard. I have a daughter-in-law who's from Spain, and she does not understand how this happens.
I don't either.
And I have never been able to explain it to her in all the years she's lived here. So I know people feel very overwhelmed by how they find a doctor who works with their insurance plan, so it is something we do. It's one other thing as Americans we need to really try to be self-actualizing about, isn't it? Ask somebody for help, email somebody, reach out, let somebody, because people, like when your first few months after your event, you were probably not feeling very self-actualized.
Oh, and it took me a while to find the doctors. I found oh my gosh, I'm blocking on his name. The physician from Houston who passed away recently, Baxter Montgomery. I found him after going through 2 or 3 cardiologists, and then I found him, and I felt like, oh, I'm home. He was wonderful. I'm just so sad that he's not with us anymore.
So don't give up.
Never give up. And also remember that you can talk to them through telehealth now. And you don't necessarily need to have them listen to your heart. Any doctor can listen to your heart and order the test. But when you want a good doctor who's going to guide you, you can do that. My Dr. Williams does telehealth all across the country and around the world. You can see him. He's available. All of these plant-based doctors will do this.
Yeah.
So yeah, never give up. Find these doctors.
Good. I'm glad we're talking about that, because I think family and themselves and the individual patients are just so overwhelmed in a moment like that. And so great if you're listening to this podcast today, if you're listening to Sherry Shrallow, you're thinking, you know what, maybe I want to just start thinking about this. Even if maybe I'm kind of plant-based and maybe I'm kind of vegan, but maybe I'm also eating a lot of kind of food just because it's vegan doesn't mean it's necessarily been a thought out nutritional profile.
And let me be clear that I am not perfect. Absolutely not. And just recently, we went on a vegan trip to Portugal with the Vedge Johnson jerseys, which I adore. But the food is not oil-free there. And there's too much food and it's too good. And Dale and I were eating stuff that we would never eat at home. The problem for me, though, is once I start eating a lot of sweets, I am an addict. I admit this, that once I get a taste of it, I want more and more and more. So we sort of continued that. And the trip was in October. It's December now. So last week, and I knew I was going to talk to Dr. Williams for my appointment this week, and I said, I am going to cut this out. This is ridiculous. Here I am trying to educate people about keeping their sugars low and the blood pressure. And what am I doing? I'm doing the opposite here. So I'm proud to say for the last week, I have been without any sweets except one yesterday when at my girlfriend's house, this much, teeny drop. I didn't even want to eat it, but she had made something. And we're dedicated now to really maintaining this, because once you get it out of your system, literally, the craving has gone away. I don't really want it now.
Yeah, the taste buds really do adjust.
Yeah, and the salt too. I mean, I don't cook with a lot of salt, so I don't miss it. I mean, I'll do a drizzle on top maybe if I need to, but that's it.
And we can change. We can do things we don't think we can do. I mean, this is just, you don't need to have a heart event to maybe challenge yourself a little bit more in these issues. Right.
We can question your choices, which I had to do. And my husband sort of made me, which I'm glad he did.
That's great.
What's happening here?
Sherry, I want people to go over to your YouTube channel because I think sometimes people, for me, it's not about the food, but for some people, they're really like, no, I don't know what to cook, Michele. Sherry, I have no idea what to cook. I love your ideas, but it's just fantasy for me because I don't know what to do. They can go to your YouTube channel,
Yes.
which is called
Chef Sherry's Plant-Based Kitchen. I have about 90 of my favorite recipes up there. And to tell you the truth, I haven't done them for a while because I just like what's up there. I don't need any more
They
food.
look great. They really look great.
They're all good, yeah. And they're oil-free. So ignore some of the desserts because they've got the maple syrup and all. Ignore some of those. Stick with the food, with the main dish and salads.
Sherry, what a delight! What a delight to have you on here, and what a somebody listening right now is probably thinking that they're not feeling that great. Maybe not. Maybe they're not dealing with anything as brutal as you had to go through 15 years ago, or maybe there's somebody in their lives that is having a tough time this winter. And winters are tough for people all around. I think it's just such a positive message that you're giving. I hope people will look at your book, Staying Alive, Healing from Heart Disease. I know that the science has probably moved along since that, but it's as a memoir and as an inspirational piece, I think it's so useful to so many people. And you also have recipes in the back of that book as well.
Yeah, let me just mention just a couple of the things that I think have changed. Dr. Esselstyn is a fabulous doctor, and this was done many, many years ago. And he told people to cut out things like nuts and like things like avocado and olive oil. Well, since then, with the work of Dr. Ornish and other researchers, it's a little different now. A little bit of nuts are fine. Dr. Williams has shared some information with me about the use of olive oil. Now, this is the pure olive oil. It's called, what do they call that real pure olive oil?
Extra virgin.
Extra virgin, but there's another word in there. Yeah, I can't think of it.
Cold pressed,
Cold
maybe?
pressed, yes, cold pressed extra virgin. He said that actually may have some benefit for the heart.
Mm-hmm.
I do not use a lot of olive oil because it's very calorie dense. And I don't want to add on pounds with something that's not doing really anything for me because I'm adding on weight. But I have used a little bit of olive oil here and there, but I mean rarely. There's one dish I make that I use it. That's about it. And I don't make that all the time. So the nuts and the seeds, they're really healthy for you. Those are whole foods. Avocado, of course, you don't want to be gobbling down an avocado a day, but if you're putting a few pieces of avocado, that's a healthy fat to be eating, according to Dr. Williams and other doctors out there who are working with patients and doing the research. So not to discredit Dr. Esselstyn, because at the time, for me, it worked very well. It was really cutting out everything. And for a lot of people, that would be hard. So I think that you can take a little bit more of this approach where you can have a little bit of nuts, a little bit of avocado, those kind of fats, and not feel that, oh my gosh, I've ruined my diet. No. It's not about perfection ever. We're going to have, like I've had a little bit of a downturn, right, recently, but I'm back on track. So can we get ourselves back on track? Not beating ourselves up because we were eating too many vegan sweets, the last 6 weeks.
Absolutely. No, that is so important. It is not about being perfect. It's not like all or nothing. Too many people are on this all or nothing, want to be all or something. Even if we want to make sure that you're still in the game, even if you're not playing at the highest level,
Forgive yourself, for goodness sakes. Forgive yourself. Be kind to yourself. Yeah. Realize we're human. We are not going to always be on a straight line trajectory. No, doesn't work that way.
Sherry, I hope you'll come back anytime you have something to share with us. I'd love to hear anything that happens during the year with Vegan Volunteer Corps. What a marvelous, marvelous program that you've started there. That's just so inspiring.
Come to Chicago and join us one month.
Thank you. Thank you. That's very kind.
Thank you so much.
Maybe not in the winter.
Maybe in the summer. But thank you so much for having me and giving me this opportunity today. I appreciate it.
So what did you think about Sherry Shrallow? I want to reiterate something Sherry said that really stayed with me. Sherry didn't describe her heart attack as a tragedy. She described it as an opportunity. an opportunity to learn and to change and to help other people not go through what she went through. And I think that's such an important reframe for all of us, whether you're thinking about your health, your food choices, or any change you've been putting off. This isn't really about doing everything perfectly. We are dealt cards in this life. Sometimes we could have done a little something about those cards that are dealt. Often not. But either way, when there's no choice, sometimes we can just decide this is an opportunity. But that reframe echoes the title of Sherry's book, right? Staying Alive. And it's about staying alive in the fullest sense of the word. Physically, yes, but also emotionally and energetically and in how we show up for others. You can learn much, much more about Sherry's work and her book, Staying Alive, and her plant-based recipes and cooking on her YouTube channel, which is called Chef Sherry's Plant-Based Kitchen. And we've linked to that in the show notes. But as always, if this episode resonated with you, I'd love it if you'd share with someone who might need to hear Sherry's story. It really does help more people find the show when you share it. So thanks for being here, and let's all really grasp life this year, 2026. How can we cherish it? How can we cherish life and our planet and each other this year? And I think one way is to just veg your best. Veg Your Best podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Vedge Your Best team if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So, until next week, make it easy and veg your best.